But I'm going to share with you today what probably has made me more fulfilled. Because I don't know how you define happiness. And there's a very good friend of mine who owns a load of pubs in Wigan. He's a very, very wealthy man. I know it's Wigan. Very, very wealthy man. And he said, you know, you got £1 in your pocket or you got $1 million, you're still the same person. Now, we've got some young people in the audience here today, and believe me, it is true. So, and this whole, when Terry asked me to be involved in the Alchemists Foundation, if I'm honest with you, I didn't really know what an alchemist was. So I kind of did a search on Wikipedia. And as we probably all know, I mean, I was a thickie. I didn't know. You know, it's been hanging around for the last 2 millennium, which if you don't know, is about 2,000 years. And the Persians did it, the Greeks, the Egyptians. And it was an art form and a science form of changing metals or substances into something more valuable. So I suppose why this is really important to me, coming here today, is to talk about change and development. Because I think this is what this is. It's about change. And you know what? People don't generally change, in my limited experience, unless they've had some sort of real calamity. So when you're hearing all the speakers today, and what we've done, and how we've done it, I would say that many of us have had some sort of experience in our lives which we were so fed up with, we had to change. And this has happened twice in my life that I can remember, 2 real areas of change. And I'm not going to go into all my poor childhood, but I did have a pretty miserable one in Liverpool. Very poor. I had a name like Dierdre O'Sullivan. Now, can you imagine that in a playground full of 7-year-olds? Yeah? And, you know, I was scruffy. I was put in the remedial class. It was just horrendous. And I was really, really unhappy. I had a very, very unhappy time at junior school. And when I was about to go up into senior school, it was so bad, my experience there, I just thought, this is my change. That, you know, sometimes change can only be from one thing to the next. It doesn't have to be the big bingo. You know, it's just like, this is my chance to change. And I decided at the age of 11, and obviously, I'm that sort of person that when I decide something and make that commitment, I bloody well do it. Now, I may be different to some other people who decide that they want to change, but actually change is really hard. You know, and it's so easy to just give it up. But I was so determined when I left school, and I did do well at that school, and I got away to university. And I did it for many reasons, but one, I just wanted to prove to everybody I wasn't this scummy little kid that was just left in the playground, and I did. Now, the second period of change was when I was 27. I ran from Britain. I hated this country. I hated being employed by you. I hated being at university with you because none of you understood me. And so the easiest thing to do was to run, and I'd go and be an English teacher in Japan. Now, the problem is, when you run from things, wherever you go, there you are. And there I was in Tokyo, didn't understand a word of what anybody was saying, and to be fair, they didn't understand me. But I was very, very unhappy. I began to be a binge drinker, totally spiraled out of control. I was smoking, seriously, nearly 60 cigarettes a day. I was off my head. 27, thinking, and I just thought, I went back to that time at junior school, and I thought, I cannot do this anymore. You see the calamity? So I changed. And that change, and I worked with some people, and it wasn't anything religious or anything like that. I worked with some people who follow a program of how to change their lives pretty drastically, and that's what I did. From there, I came back to the UK, and I came back to Leeds. I came back to Leeds because although my parents were still in Liverpool, I kind of thought, you know in your gut. I mean, people often say, oh, what's the secret of business? Often I say, you rely on your intuition. And that's the one thing I did. I went to Leeds. My sister was I started a business. Some of the students in the audience may know I2I, which is a gap year company. Started a business from a bedsit, literally from a bedsit in Rawdon. And I grew it. I grew it within 10 years. I had wholly owned offices in Ireland, a great travellers of the Irish. Nobody was there. I went to where nobody else went to. Ireland, opened in the United States of America, in Melbourne, Australia, and operated out of 35 countries. And within 10 years, I grew something from zero to being the biggest gap year travel company in the world. And I employed about 160 people. And that was from that change in Tokyo that time. It wasn't because I have some particularly brilliant way of doing business. All I did really was take a niche, put a brand on it, and make an absolute commitment that nothing was going to stop me. Now, I knew I could do it because I did it at a very young age. And so there was that change in Tokyo that enabled me to do that. Now, I could talk forever, and I've only got probably another 10 minutes left now, about the growth of I2I and how I did it. But essentially, we send about 7,500 people abroad a year, and we train 18,000 English teachers, English as a foreign language. It was bought 3 years ago by TUI Travel for an 8-figure sum. So it just kind of shows that if you're prepared, and not everybody, that's the problem you see, not everybody is prepared to give everything. Your very soul, if you want that level of success so quickly, that's what you have to give. But many people just give up. It's too hard. The staff are this. The idea is that. The website doesn't work. The this, that, and the other. The bank won't lend me the money. There's always a way to do something. So what was this change in Tokyo? Well, I'm going to share a couple of the steps that I did because it was the change that enabled me to have the confidence to do what I did. Please believe that. You don't just wake up one morning, have a brilliant idea for a business, and be as you are now and grow a fantastic business. It is about change, and you have to change. The first thing I learned back in Tokyo, because I don't know about anybody here, but I'm an absolute control freak. I need to know what's going on. I need to control it. I need to control you. I need to control this. I need to control the traffic. I need to control this, that, and the other. And you know what I learned and what was taught to me? Let it go, Dierdre. You're absolutely powerless over everything apart from how you react to stuff. That's probably the simplest way I can put it. But you see, we believe we can control things. And you know what happens when things don't work out our way and how we want them to? We get disillusioned. We get disappointed in people. We think it's never going to work. It's okay to plan. Of course it is. It's okay to even dream. But get out of the control room of life. So that was one of the first things that I learned. And the second thing I learned, and this took me a while to understand, and I'll put it in as simply a way as possible. Somebody said to me, Dierdre, you are an egomaniac with an inferiority complex. And I said, what do you mean? And they said, well, you've heard of the ego, haven't you? I said, well, yeah, but I've never really studied psychology. He said, you don't need to study psychology. The ego, as it was explained to me, is just a throwback of our reptilian brain. So basically, we've got some kind of reptile brain hanging around the back of at the base of our brain. And if you're thinking, what is she talking about? Well, I ask you to go to Chester Zoo and go and spend some time at Monkey Island and watch us all there. Snatching the bananas, getting all we can out of life, sulking, the cliquish behaviour, the prestige that we need. This was how it was put to me. These aren't my words. I wish I could come up with this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that I can understand now. Yeah, I'm like that. I need to be a key person of influence. You know, I need to have friends. I need to this. I need to that. Need. He said, you see, Dierdre, that is what the ego does to us. It sits there and it separates. It's a big glass screen between me and you. It separates me. It always tells me I'm never as good as you. And actually, you're never as good as me. And actually, I'm afraid of you. And you've got a bigger car than me. So you must be better than me. And it stops us from being ourselves. Now, you ask about the way I set up my business. I was absolutely myself when I set up this business. I didn't give a damn about what you thought of me. So that's how the ego was described to me. And what happens is, it just keeps on chattering away in our head. You're not good. You're not good enough. You're too good. You're this, you're that. Instead of just being you. What you're meant to be. And I thought, okay, yeah. And this was the real crux of it, he said. And it manifests itself in two main ways. You've got huge fears, anxiety, anxiousness. And you hold massive resentments. I said, resentment? I don't hold resentment. He said, let me explain to you what a resentment is, Dierdre. And if I may, I'll explain to you. A resentment. It comes, sentir is a Latin word meaning to feel. A resentment is to refeel. So I ask you all, when somebody has done something to you, people, places, things, you disagree with, have a feeling of bitterness, you feel it, don't you? It hurts you, or you get angry, or whatever else it might be. And then the problem is that you call somebody and you say, you never guess what this person did. So you re-feel it. And then you tell your mum and your husband and your wife, no way, they say. Yeah, way, they say. And you go to bed at night and it gets you on and on. These people living rent-free in your head. So I'm like, my God. And he said, you will never get anywhere in life if you fill your life with resentment. Now, I run a reasonably big business. If any of you run a business here, you know staff do your head in. Friends do your head in. Your mother does, your daughter does, your son does. I mean, they drive you bonkers. And you get resentful, often because we have too high expectations. And I said, well, how do I get rid of these resentments? And I don't want them. I want a free head. I don't want them in there for free. Do I forgive them for what they've done? And he said, well, if you were Mother Teresa, I'd say, yeah. But you're not, Dierdre. I said, well, how do I do it? He said, well, you look at your part in it. Because almost, and I would say you look at this very carefully, almost every person, place or thing you have a resentment against, you probably set the ball rolling.